Today we're going to be doing a quick fire alarm test here. We're not going to get to hear anything because we're going to disable it. We're just going to be testing how the monitoring company is receiving the alarms, because since the situation at one of our high schools where the sprinkler system froze and blew up and did not call the fire department because it only put a trouble through to the monitoring company, this has prompted more of an investigation because we've switched monitoring companies. So we've gone around and tested every school. This is just one that's a little bit easier to show, and some of them are only monitored for alarm. This one is a proper ULC listed setup where we actually have the separate panel like required, as well as wireless. So we have our two forms of communication. So we're going to be testing this one for all three conditions. We'll call the monitoring company, put it on test, and unfortunately they won't stay on the phone with us. So we have to do everything at the time and record what time we set things off and then call back and check. So we'll check this for alarm and trouble and supervisory because this system actually has all three. So it's a little bit more interesting to show this one. This is probably the only one I'm going to show. We've done almost every other one. This one's just a little bit easier. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. We'll start by just letting the school know. We'll bypass bells, but just in case anything happens, they don't need to evacuate, and then call and put the system on test, and then give all the different conditions and make sure that the monitoring company is receiving the appropriate condition at the right time, that's labeled on their end as the right thing. Almost everything we have found plenty of issues, like troubles that are set as a panic button, calling the police. Once I went to program the time on a system and went into programming to adjust the time, came outside, 3 cop cars have responded, and alarms set as panic buttons and etc, just lots of misprogrammed things. Nothing wrong in the actual school though. The relays are all fine. It's just how they have it labeled on the monitoring end. So we'll simulate a trouble condition by creating a trouble somehow, and we will create an alarm condition and a supervisory.
And we're going to, what time do you have? I just want to see we're on the same time zone. Might get a trouble signal.
There is our disables. They're not labeled, unfortunately, but they are relay and bell disable. Yeah, you should have had a trouble. Trouble would have been at 10:08. We can give a supervisory in a couple of minutes. We're gonna hit signal silence when we do an alarm, just as a precaution, because I've had it before where the disables doesn't do everything, and you'd rather just hit silence instead of the bells going off the whole time, and you don't think they actually are. Going to create supervisory. Usually you don't have to turn these very far. All right, there it is. That is your... Is it still there? Yeah, we can leave. It's just that the module... Oh, I'm on a different one. That's why. Okay. It's this one here. Yeah, it's this one. Now lastly, we will do an alarm, but we're gonna still hit signal silence, just in the odd case the disables don't work properly. As I said, I've had that before, where the disables don't function and you'd rather just hit signal silence anyways, just to make sure your bells aren't gonna be going off until the system's reset. Like, it takes 1 second to hit it. In the odd chance it doesn't work, it's definitely worthwhile doing. Did you receive an alarm?
Our main floor center. Main floor center.
So on this keypad you should have 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, so it's registered all of them. You can see 1 is fire panel alarm, 2 is fire panel trouble, 3 is fire panel supervisory, 4 is the cellular communicator, and 6 is the panel tamper. Yeah, so we have all 3 active, so they should have received it. So you can see each one of these green things is a end of line pigtail, so it's a resistor. So that you can see there's 3 of them, so that's an easy way to know that this panel is monitored for all 3, for alarm, trouble, supervisory. That's an end of line resistor from that separate ULC fire monitoring panel. You will see many grandfathered in setups where they're just using the intrusion alarm to monitor the fire alarm panel. That is fine if it's existing, but any new install or upgrade should be done properly with a separate ULC listed fire monitoring panel. That's how we do it here. We never use the phone lines coming straight out of the fire alarm panel. It always goes through a separate monitoring panel. That's just how it is in my location. That goes to the monitoring company, who then goes to the emergency services dispatch center. So it goes through first, this monitors the fire panel, this sends a signal to the monitoring company, who then gives that signal to the dispatch center, who will then dispatch the appropriate first responders. Or if it's a trouble or supervisory, something that doesn't need emergency services, then it will go to the property management or whoever is appropriate, or security guard if it's after hours, who can then reach out to someone else. It just depends on time of day and if, depending on the operating hours of the place, how it's handled. We're just waiting to hear from the alarm monitoring company what conditions came through at what time to verify if everything went through correctly or not.
Okay. Supervisory at 10:13.
Okay.
Like a fire alarm at 10:16. And then another fire alarm at 10:18.
I'm not going to restore these conditions by doing a system reset. There you go, you can actually hear the relays in this click. So 2 is the only one still active, which is system trouble. Should go back to normal on here. 2 should go away. There you go. Okay, this was a good one. Everything came through as it was supposed to. There was a communication trouble prior to us being here, a communication loss, which would be a phone line issue, but that's not quite a problem as far as the alarms being received is the correct thing. That's a separate problem, which could be the phone service provider. That's, our stuff is working fine. So anyways, that's gonna be it for this one.